In December of 1980, deep in a quiet pine forest in Suffolk, England, something happened that the United States Air Force has never fully explained. Over 3 nights, American servicemen guarding one of NATO's most sensitive nuclear weapons sites reported a glowing object moving through the trees. A senior officer walked into that forest with a tape recorder and came out convinced he had witnessed something real. Decades later, the case remains open in the sense that matters most. Nobody, not the Air Force, not British intelligence, nor the world's leading UFO skeptics, has ever fully closed the file. This is the Rendlesham Forest incident, often called Britain's Roswell, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why it's one of the most thoroughly documented unexplained sightings in British history, and why even the best conventional explanations don't quite cover everything that was reported. Rendlesham Forest sits between 2 Royal Air Force bases, Woodbridge and Bentwaters, which in December of 1980 were leased to the United States Air Force to store nuclear weapons at the height of the Cold War. Just after 3 a.m. on the 26th of December, security patrolmen near the east gate of IAF Woodbridge spotted strange lights descending into the forest. Thinking a U.S. Air Force plane had gone down, they requested permission to investigate. What they described finding instead was nothing like an aircraft at all. 2 airmen, John Burroughs and Jim Penniston, drove toward the lights and continued on foot once the trees became too dense. What they described next is the single strangest detail in the entire case. Penniston claimed he approached and physically touched a small, triangular craft resting in a clearing, metallic, warm to the touch, and covered in symbols he compared to hieroglyphics. Years later, he would go on to claim he began experiencing flashes of binary code in his mind in the days following the event. That later detail is far more disputed than the rest of his testimony, and it's worth being clear about the difference, but both men have maintained the core account of encountering a physical object in the clearing, consistently, for over 4 decades. The next morning, investigators returned to the site and found something beyond just testimony. 3 shallow impressions in the ground, arranged in a triangular pattern, along with broken branches and burn marks on nearby trees. It's evidence that's genuinely hard to explain away, though it's also evidence that was documented after the fact, not under controlled conditions, which is exactly the kind of detail skeptics point to and that any fair account has to acknowledge. 2 nights later, the base's deputy commander decided to see it for himself. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt led a follow-up team into the forest on the night of the 28th of December, carrying a handheld microcassette recorder that taped much of the expedition. Alongside him was Staff Sergeant Monroe Nevels, the base's disaster preparedness specialist, who brought a Geiger counter to the clearing. On Halt's tape, you can hear the 2 of them working side by side, Halt narrating events in real time while Nevels calls out readings from the device. Later that same night, the team reported star-like objects in the sky moving with sharp, unnatural, angular motion, appearing to send beams of light toward the ground near the base itself. Weeks afterward, Halt formalized what he witnessed in an official memo to the British Ministry of Defence, titled, almost comically understated given its contents, Unexplained Lights. Here's the detail that turned this from a strange campfire story into an actual documented incident. That memo wasn't leaked by a tabloid or a conspiracy theorist. It surfaced in 1983 through an official U.S. Freedom of Information Act request. A senior U.S. Air Force officer's own written account, on official Air Force letterhead, addressed to a NATO ally's government, is the primary evidence behind this case. That's an unusually solid paper trail for a UFO story. Most rest on decades-old rumors and second-hand retellings. This one rests on a declassified government document anyone can read today. And there are serious, credible skeptics, and being fair to them matters. British astronomer Ian Ridpath has spent decades arguing that the light seen on the first night can be explained by a genuine fireball meteor, independently reported burning up over southern England around the same time, combined with the men mistaking the powerful, rotating beam of the nearby Orford Ness lighthouse for a craft moving through the trees. It's a serious, evidence-based explanation, and it plausibly accounts for at least part of what was seen on that first night. What it doesn't cleanly explain is everything reported over the following 2 nights, including Halt's own detailed, real-time audio account of aerial objects displaying erratic, angular motion, which a stationary lighthouse can't produce on its own. Ridpath has offered an explanation for that night too, identifying the star-like objects Halt described as most likely ordinary bright stars low on the horizon, including Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, with atmospheric twinkling and an optical illusion called autokinesis making a fixed point of light appear to move. Not everyone finds that fully convincing, particularly given that Halt's own commanding officer reportedly stepped outside that night and looked but couldn't see what Halt was describing. This is genuinely where reasonable people disagree. The radiation question is more contested than most retellings admit, and it's worth resisting the urge to resolve it for the sake of a cleaner story. Neville's readings at the depressions have been reported by different sources as several times above expected background levels, while other accounts describe Halt's own later characterization of the readings as only slightly elevated and within a normal range. That discrepancy has never been fully resolved. Honest coverage of this case has to leave it exactly where it stands, unsettled. The British Ministry of Defence's official position has remained consistent since 1980. They concluded the incident posed no threat to national security, and on that basis, declined to investigate further. That decision alone has fueled decades of suspicion. For a Cold War nuclear weapons site, closing the book on an unexplained security event without further inquiry is, at minimum, an unusual choice, whatever the underlying cause turns out to have been. So what actually happened in Rendlesham Forest? Nobody can say with full certainty, and any account that claims otherwise is overselling it. What can be said is this: trained military personnel guarding one of the most sensitive strategic sites in Western Europe independently reported extraordinary events across multiple nights. Physical evidence was documented at the scene the following morning. A senior officer's own contemporaneous recording lines up closely with his later written report. And unlike many UFO stories built on decades-old rumors and unnamed sources, this one is anchored to an actual declassified US government document. None of that proves an extraordinary explanation, but it's also more than skeptics have managed to fully account for. Every year, researchers request additional files, reanalyze the Halt tape, and interview the same handful of witnesses, now in their 60s and 70s, who have never changed their core story. Some insist they encountered a genuine unidentified craft. Others believe a combination of ordinary explanations, a meteor, a lighthouse, nighttime confusion, and the psychology of a group already primed to see something strange, added up to an experience that felt far stranger than it actually was. What nobody has managed to do in over 40 years is definitively prove either version. And that, more than any single detail inside the forest itself, is exactly why this case has outlasted almost every other UFO story in modern history. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Britain's most documented unexplained mysteries, subscribe for more investigations just like it, and let us know in the comments what you think really happened in Rendlesham Forest that December.